Let's go ahead and get that cracking. Get that started. Hey, how's it going, Libra? All right, cool. So the YouTubes should now be live. The YouTube should now be live. Y'all go ahead and tap that screen. Y'all tap that screen. Tap, tappity tap. So we can go ahead and get some folks in here. Appreciate you, Libra, for being here, of course. Appreciate my mom, Libra, for being here. But you always remember to tap that screen. Let's go ahead and tap it up here first, Libra, before you head over to the YouTube. You should be a mod here too. Let me make sure that you're a mod here. Yeah, you're not a mod here yet. So I'm gonna make you a mod here on TikTok as well. And you can manage guests as well. Cool. All right, so yeah, go ahead and tap that screen here, and then we'll go ahead and head over to the YouTube. All right. Let's make sure that it gets all tapped up. All right, y'all. Tap that screen. Tap that screen. Y'all see the topic on the board. This time is one of the few times I actually will talk to the comments. This time is one of the few times I actually will talk to the comments. The serpent and the rainbow on YouTube. Is that your YouTube? If that's your YouTube, cool. Yeah, go ahead and I guess subscribe to that if y'all want to. All right, y'all. We are here and we are live. Do you believe in the possibility of at least an intelligent creator? I guess to be philosophically correct, you have to say anything's possible. But if I give room for that without any evidence of that being the case, I also have to give room for everything else without evidence of it being the case, including the genie of the lamp, right? So I take into consideration things that are probable, and things that are probable usually have a decent amount of evidence behind it. I don't have that for an intelligent creator, right? So I'm not. I wouldn't say that. I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's not something. It's not a claim that I would take rigorously seriously. You know what I mean? Because there's just no proof of that claim yet, or at least not a good reason to actually take that claim seriously. What up over on the YouTube? I see y'all there, and I appreciate y'all being there over on the YouTube. Oh, wow, I already got a lot of people over on the YouTube. Hey, dope. I appreciate that, y'all. I appreciate y'all for being over on the YouTube. Love to discuss in a few minutes. Yeah, you go ahead and come up and discuss. Tap that screen, y'all. I should get the phone lines open too, shouldn't I? I'm gonna do that in a little bit. I'm gonna get the phone lines open in a little bit. I'm gonna get the phone lines open a little bit, but for now, go ahead and tap that screen. All right, we already got someone who's insulting me in the YouTube without actually, oh wait, I don't have the call in. All right, I'm gonna put on the call line just for the person who's calling me a clown over on the YouTube, and you can actually go ahead and call in and call me a clown to my face. All right, so for the person over on the Black Atheist Coalition, hey, what's up, YouTube? What's up? What's good, Resist? I see y'all there. Over on the Deconstruction Junction, I see y'all there as well. All right, so person over on my YouTube, over on the Black Atheist Coalition, go ahead and call in. Yeah, anybody can call in now. I'm not gonna call in now. This one's more of an ask me anything. I'm not doing any really serious the debates tonight. It won't be anything serious. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. We'll have a friendly conversation. Because I don't mind talking to anybody. Quinn said that they'll request up in a few minutes. I'm just gonna go ahead and wait for Quinn. We'll go ahead and wait for Quinn. They said they'll request him in a few minutes. Pan-African is a framework of liberation for African people. What it means is that I believe in what Pan-Africanism is basically that I believe in the political, economic, and social liberation of people of African descent. So it's basically a framework. It's a framework for people of African descent, sub-Saharan African descent, in particular, for us to basically a framework for self-determination, for us to determine our own political goals, our own economic goals, our own social and our own social goals, basically our own to decide the future for ourselves without the imposition or without the influence of Western powers. No, it doesn't mean segregation, because what segregation means is like a legal separation. Basically, you cannot be here if one category of people are over here. I don't believe in that. I believe that we should be able to determine for ourselves our own political, social, and economic goals. That's what it is. It's not, white people are not allowed in Nigeria or something like that. That would be kind of stupid. All right. I have someone on the stage. Jaden, how's it going, Jaden?
Hey, what's up, man? How's your day going?
I'm all right. So I'm a leftist, atheist, and a Pan-African. What did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about leftism.
Yeah, sure. What you want to know?
Yeah, so by leftist, would you classify yourself as like a socialist or communist?
I would say that I'm more of a socialist, not because I don't believe in communism. I think we could we should get there, but I don't think we can get there yet with the way that society is. More people need to lean towards socialism in order for us to get to communism.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of just say like, socialism first, and that'll be like a waypoint to get to communism.
Yeah. Not only that, I don't know a lot about. Well, I do know some about communism, but it's not if you're a communist, for example, I would tell people to go ahead and speak to you instead of speaking to me about it, because I will fuck it all up. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Communism, at least the way that, Marx outlines it, it's pretty much going to be after socialism, but it's just going to be a moneyless, stateless, classless society. So there's going to be no employer, no employee, no state, no rich, no poor, things of that nature.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I'm just
and it's
not
going to
sure
like
how
abolish.
I'm sorry.
And it's going to abolish like the like private property, but he makes a distinction between like private and like, personal.
Yeah, exactly. You see, those are the parts that I know. Now, when people tell me how exactly do we get there, how exactly do you defend yourself against outsiders? Would the councils be government anyway? Stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so I'll be like, man, you got to talk to a communist, because I'll be very bad at explaining it, and I don't want to screw up, communism for everybody else. But I do know at a certain point, society needs to get there. You see what I mean? So I would say I'm a socialist now, and then I would like, hey, if someone is a communist, I'm gonna screw up the explanation. Please talk to a communist. They know way better than I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess what are your biggest, I guess, objections against something like capitalism?
Oh, exploitation. Exploitation. And I think my biggest one, I always say this: your pocket is not more important than other people. You see what I mean? The thing that capitalism always encourages is to accumulate currency no matter what, at any expense. If accumulating currency is going to cause a bunch of babies to die, you accumulate the currency. I don't believe in that type of system. Yeah, I mean, and capitalism requires you to do that. Yeah, I mean, because we've seen that before with Nestle, for example. Nestle causing the death of babies in the third world in order to sell more product. You see what I'm saying? We've seen that with just recently in America, like 50, 60 years ago, the Ford Pinto, where they knew that people would get into accidents and die, but they will rather make the money first and pay out the death claims. So
yeah. Capitalism, because actually with that case, they actually like it was. I think they would have saved like $1 million by not doing it, but it's kind of like when you think about the money versus someone's life. Someone's life is probably worth more than that million. So yeah, that was a interesting case. To see them actually not fix, and I think it was just a little thing by the like the what was it, like the gas thing where you put the gas or something like that. They just had to fix that because if you got into a little accident, you'd have big problems. So I guess like with the in terms of like the exploitation, I guess like because at least in the way that Marx kind of explained it, like when you have a surplus, or like where a boss takes the surplus or the profit, where you're producing something and then they're paying you less, and then there's that surplus that then the boss takes. He didn't really outline a moral implication to it. He called it exploitation, but he didn't put a moral implication towards it. So like I guess like when you're talking about exploitation, are you talking about it in a moral sense or in just that sense?
I would say both in the moral sense and the economic sense, because I am learning now that capitalism has contradictions, such as infinite growth, which is impossible. But that in that sense that you're talking about right there, how the labor that we produce, the excess gets put in the pockets of the owner, instead of the worker using that in order to benefit the society, or even if the profit goes into the corporation, but the corporation doesn't use that profit to reinvest into society, which causes a lack of labor or lack of growth, even though capitalism requires infinite growth. You see what I'm saying? So the contradiction there is seems kind of ridiculous. Evolving seems, I'm gonna get to you in a second. Right after I'm done with Jaden, I'm gonna get a spot for you to come on up, and I'm gonna answer questions in my chat as well. So Evolving seems to get you in a second. But yeah, Jaden, that right there is the stuff that I started to realize maybe around my mid to late 20s. I started to see that there's a huge contradiction here, because if you refuse to invest those profits into society to uplift that society, to have better services, have a healthier populace, if you don't use that profit in order to do that, you're going to see a lack of growth. You know what I mean? And not only that, you have to stagnate wages. But if you stagnate wages in order to make more profit, those people are not going to be able to buy the products and services. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, isn't this a contradiction? I kind of noticed that myself before I actually looked into it, and realized that people way before me already noticed it. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that is and it's just the moral part too. It's like you're kind of stealing, right? At that point, or you're stealing with more steps, I would say.
And then before I get off of here, I wanted to ask you about your atheism. So like when you say that you're an atheist, do you mean like I guess, would you say like you're a Gnostic atheist or agnostic atheist? Or?
I'm an agnostic atheist. Like, I can't say for sure there is no God at all. Like someone asked that earlier, right? Do I believe in the possibility of an intelligent creator? Sure. I guess to be philosophically correct, anything is possible, right? I have to say that part is possible, but I'm more on what's probable. Do we actually have some proof to show that's the case? And as of right now, I don't have any. But I'm not hostile towards religion, right? I will never, in my perfect society, I wouldn't say no religion at all, make it illegal. You know what I mean? That's not the way I'm going to be. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do the USSR or Mao's China thing where they just made religion illegal. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm more of of agnostic atheist, and let live. Society should be run by what we have evidence for and what's better for the rest of the people. And theocracies are never good for the majority of people. So, but I wouldn't say, like, if you were a Christian, I wouldn't say, you're a stupid person or you shouldn't be Christian. I've had plenty of polite conversations with Christians, you know what I'm saying? But of course, a lot of them get contentious because, it's part of their identity. So it's contentious, but like, I never denigrate them. I just, criticize the religion, but I always tell them, me criticizing your religion is not you as a person. You're different from that. Yeah, I mean, I just have disagreements with your religion. That's what I always say.
And I guess what what arguments have not convinced you, or what do you find to be the most promising arguments?
Crazy enough, probably one of the most compelling arguments is one that I would say that is something that I typically don't accept, because if I have to, and that's personal testimony, because people experience things, right? So that's why I always say I don't doubt what you experience. I'm just doubting what you attribute it to. Yeah, I mean, because like if I have to take your personal testimony of one religion, I have to take the personal testimony of all the others. And you all can't be right. Yeah, I mean, but certainly you all can be wrong. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, yeah, okay, I understand, and yeah, sure, you experienced something. Now, what are you attributing that experience to? What actually was it? Was it the God you believe in, or the spirits you believe in, or were we delusional, or something else that we cannot explain? Yeah, sure, it can be the spiritual world, but we need to pin that down. How do we actually show the spiritual world exists? Like, what do we use? What methods do we use? And if they're saying that we can't use any physical method because we can't determine this physically, then what do we do at that point? Because you're experiencing something physically, but you're telling me that you can't prove it physically. What are we doing at that point? Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to believe it. We have to find a way to show this to be the case, because you're saying that it's or not you personally. I'm just saying that's how they argue.
Yeah.
Like they're saying that it's interacting with the physical world, but now we can't prove it physically. How do we where do we go from there? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, okay, at that point I'm not
I hear you on the like on people's experiences. It's like, okay, well, let's say it's a Christian. Well, it's like, well, what do you say to the Muslim who also says they have this experience? And it's like, could this be explained on a naturalist account where you don't have to invoke like the supernatural? But in terms of like even like proof and evidence, like would you say that you would accept like philosophical arguments, or do you stick more to like empirical things, like stuff you can like observe and things like that?
I stick more to empirical, and I've always said, like, philosophical arguments, they don't get us anywhere, because at the end of the day, we have to verify it somehow, some way, right? Like even if you concede every single philosophical argument, how exactly do you verify it now? Yeah, I mean, so it's like, for example, like when it came to like physicists, right? Physicists always postulated that atoms existed. They postulated that since Aristotle, but it was never verified until I think maybe Einstein, or maybe a bit before that, bit after that, atoms were actually proven to exist, right? Even though it was postulated for thousands of years, at a certain point you have to verify it, and the only way you verify it is through either its effects, like what they did with gravitational waves and black holes and stuff like that, or you verify it through actual observation, like they did with atoms and electrons and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to the spiritual world, how do we verify that? When it comes to certain God's claims, how do we verify that? What do we use?
God is a philosophical concept in the first place, right?
Go ahead, Jaden.
So I guess first, kind of like critique the empiricism. So like, I guess like, would you hold that, science is going to be the best way or the only way for us to discover truth? Would you hold to one of those positions?
Right now, it's the best way. We don't have any other process to show what's true and what's false or not. Right now, the scientific process is the best way.
So the reason I guess I would disagree with that view is because like when we say it's the best view, like there's a lot of things that science is going to presuppose, so it's not going to be foundational. So some of the things it's going to presuppose is like induction, that induction is true. It's going to presuppose that the external world exists. It's going to presuppose that we can trust our sense data. It's going to presuppose the law of causality. And science, before we can even get, to start doing the science, we have to presuppose all of these other things. So science can't be this foundational thing that we go to because it's presupposing these things. And then also, like when we say something like, science is going to be the best way for us to uncover truth, the problem with that is that in and of itself, that's not going to be a scientific claim. That's going to be a philosophical claim. So it's going to take us, looking at the realms of logic, mathematics, ethics, science, looking at all these disciplines. So it seems a little self-defeating to say that, science would be the best way for us to know these things.
I mean, all the presuppositions that you're saying are things that are just brick walls in our reality. There's no way to interact with reality without using our sense data. Like there's no other way. You know what I mean? So it's a brick wall. We have to use that. Yeah, I mean, same thing with what's the other thing that you said? You said our sense data is what leads to everything else that you said. Induction, the laws of logic, all that good stuff. We have to use it.
But it's like science isn't the type of thing that can, prove those things. So it's like for science to be the best, it's almost hard for it to be the best, because in order for us to even do science, it has to presuppose all these other foundational things that aren't scientific.
But but the thing is, what I'm talking about is that we have no other choice, because how do you interact with the world without your senses?
Yeah, and that's the point, right? So we would have to, you know, make arguments for us to, you know, accept that that those things exist, right? Arguments against solipsism, which is going to be philosophical rather than scientific.
Right. No, I get that, right? But at the end of the day, it's not just our sense data. It's basically like, because empiricism is not just I see something and therefore it's true, right? It's basically the amalgamation of all of the data that we can take. And yeah, all of that data is based on our sense data, but we have no other option. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for one good example that I've heard of this is that if a person has never seen color, right? Never seen color, and you point towards like a red car, and everybody passing by describes it as red. Yes, that's red. Yes, that's red. Yes, that's red. Then you know that, okay, there's a phenomenon happening here that we experience that's called red. But if one person says red, one person says blue, you get 100,000 different answers. Then there's something going on with that phenomena, isn't there? Like, maybe this phenomena that we call color is not as solid as we think. But if everyone that you passes by the car says red, then you have a better sense of what's going on. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's how.
Yeah, but
that's
that
how
kind
it
of
works.
yeah, but in that way, like if everyone, you know, converges on the belief that the color is red, well, that still doesn't solve the problem, because we could all be wrong in our sense data, right? Because we could all be, you know, seeing the wrong thing. It's like, how do we know that what we're seeing is actually what exists in reality?
That's a
right? And
none of us can solve that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's why I would say that, you know, hard empiricism, or the belief that, you know, thing like finding things out through observation or things like that, is going to be the best or the only way to know truth. I would say that that's false. Like if someone said it's the
right, but
like if someone like,
but
yeah,
Jane, our question then goes back to, how do you interact with the world without using your senses? How's that possible?
So some things are going to be logic, right? Philosophy, ethics, mathematics, those types of things. So
all of which require sense data. All those require it.
No, but those are things. Those things aren't going to be done through observation, right? Because when you have logical arguments, there's things where you don't actually have to experience, right? You can have a priori truths, things that you just get through reason alone or before experience.
But reason uses your senses.
No, it doesn't. It's not like, by senses, I mean things like taste, touch, smell, hearing. What's the other one? Smelling. That's what I mean by our sense data.
Those are the five classical ones, but there are more senses than that, right?
No, like that's what, you know, our observation is, that like that's our sense data. But things like our reasoning and things of that nature, like that's going to be against empiricism.
Does that require a sense of self?
What reasoning?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean by sense of self?
Like that, you know who you are. You have a sense of yourself.
No.
Yeah, well, I don't know necessarily. I mean, I think
so. You're saying that a person who doesn't know they exist can still reason?
That doesn't know that they exist?
Right. You see how that doesn't make sense, right?
Well, when you say when you say no, there, that's going to be the big question, because like obviously someone could have.
In order for something to reason, it has to exist and know that it exists. You have to have a sense of self. Like the observational senses, touch, smell, everything like that. Those are the classic senses, but you have more than those. The sense of self is essential to who you are.
But in that way, you're actually kind of arguing against yourself, because to know that, you know that through, you know, reason alone. To say, well, I exist, so it's the case that, like I can reason about this, so it's the case that I exist, right? That's going to be a philosophical argument. That's not going to be a scientific. No, but like that's not your sense data, right? That's your reasoning.
How do I not have sense data if I have a sense of self?
No, it's not that. It's not that you don't have sense data if you don't have a sense of self, right? It's that your sense data isn't identical to your reasoning.
Why not?
Because sense data is just going to be the five senses and things that you've attained through observation, right? But things that you attain through reasoning, right? That's things that you don't necessarily need to observe. It's a priori truths.
How do I reason things without knowing that I exist first?
No, but that's the thing. Like knowing, like saying that you know that you exist or that you have a justified true belief in the proposition that you exist, that's not the same as your sense data.
How not? I have a sense of self.
Okay, now that's just an equivocation, right? Because you're using sense in two different meanings, right? You're using sense one in the case of, you know, what you attain through observation, and then sense of, you know, what you get through, you know, reasoning.
Right. What I'm saying is that the only way that we know we exist is to observe things. How can you know you exist and not observe?
No,
That's
but
our only
I don't.
option.
No, but I don't. So okay, so you're saying we just like presuppose that it's true, or what?
What I'm saying is that we cannot interact with existence without our sense data. It's impossible.
No, I'm not saying that we should get rid of sense data, right? I also believe in sense data as well. What I'm critiquing is the view that we can only know something through our sense data, or that it's the best way for us to know things.
That is the best way for us to know things. Even us reasoning is going to use it.
No, but reasoning isn't our sense data, right? Because it's not what we obtain through observation. Because using reason alone, we don't actually have to experience the thing.
But everything that you're going to use for reason is going to be based off what you experienced.
No, because okay, so like for example, let's say like we had a term like triangle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just from understanding the concept of a triangle, right, we can know that it has three sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from that, I didn't need to actually go. I didn't actually need to go and see a triangle, right? But if someone said something like, there, like the grass is green, right? The grass is green, right? That's something like just from knowing the concept of grass, I'm not going to actually know that the grass is green unless I go out and actually go and look at it. Right. So that's going to be something that's going to require observation. Right. That's going to require the five senses.
Mm-hmm.
But things that can just be like analytically true or that can be known through reason alone. Right. That's not going to require my sense data.
Like what?
I just gave you an example. Just from knowing the concept of a triangle, I'm able to understand that it's three-sided, just in virtue of the type of thing it is, or what it is to be a triangle.
So
or like a bachelor, right? Just from knowing the concept of a bachelor,
mm-hmm.
right? I know that it's an unmarried man, but I don't actually have to go like meet or experience a married bachelor.
Right, but no, you don't have to go experience a married bachelor, but
you know what it is though,
right?
And that's what it's saying. Like,
what I'm saying is, you know what it is because we defined it that way.
Yeah, well. The concept is still true outside of the, you know, definition.
But definitions don't exist without us.
Yeah, no, like obviously, like the you know, the referent that we put towards the thing, like child, or, you know, we could say triangle, right? But that would still exist without us assigning a word to it, right?
No,
it's about the concept.
But
it's about the concept.
I'm saying the concept doesn't exist without us existing. These things are dependent on us.
No, I mean, I would disagree. Like at least when it comes to things like, so like you would say,
you think triangles exist outside of us, like Platonism?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, math and things like that, they exist outside of us.
How do we show that to be true? Because we've never existed outside of us.
That would just be like conceptual realism.
Yeah, hold on, it's not your turn yet. What I'm saying is that how do we even show that to be true? Like what do we do to show that to be true?
Well, like what do you mean show what to be true?
But you just said that these concepts exist.
That math precedes us.
Yeah, like these things exist outside of us, like numbers, shapes, they all exist outside of us. Like how do we show that to be true? Because
my bad, go ahead.
Because it's like we can't really experience outside of space and time, right? We can't go to other dimensions. Like, is there another dimension where we can grab onto the number 2? Like what do we do? How do we show that?
No, but so it would be done through, you know, reasoning alone, right? So we would just say like, okay, so let's say that all of us just did not exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that there were 2 rocks, right? Mm-hmm. But, you know, we weren't there to actually observe it, right? Even though that there was no one there to actually observe it, it'd still be the case that there were 2 rocks.
The rocks exist. The rocks exist, not the concept of 2.
No, but like 2, like you just have 2 rocks, right?
Yeah,
that still exists.
The quantity exists. I got you. The quantity exists, but that label that you're putting on it 2 does not. That label depends on us.
Like what I'm but like but like what I'm saying is like obviously language, we can call things anything, right? That's just a referent that we use to, you know, categorize a specific concept, right? But the concept is going to be the thing that still exists.
The concept
but obviously
can't exist
we could
without
say two,
us.
Exactly,
Because,
it can exist without us.
No, it can't, because you just said that the labels that we have are like we can call it anything.
No,
it doesn't exist without us.
I'm saying like obviously language is going to be subjective, right? We can call something anything, right? Like if like for example, if the word child just, you know, if it was wiped from everyone's mind today, right? The concept of child would still be there, right? We would know, okay, a child is an offspring. Right, we'd still have that concept even if they wiped the word child from our minds.
Right, we will still have that concept.
So the concept would still exist.
Right, because we exist, but without us, that concept doesn't. How do you have a child without existence? How do you have a child without parents? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's about the concept. Like it's like if everyone just went like
what I'm saying is Jaden, is that how can these things are dependent on us? How can they exist without us existing?
No, but they're not dependent on us, right? Because that would say
okay. So how do you show that? How do you show that? Because you just keep saying that if we deleted the word child from our mind, we will still have a concept of an offspring. Of course, we have a concept of an offspring because humans and organisms have offspring. But if human and organisms are not around and there's no offspring to be had, how does offspring as a concept still exist if we're not around?
Yeah. Okay. So I said that to critique your point about, well, you know, it's the case that, you know, we just create the concept, or like because of the word, that's why the concept is there, right? But it's not because of the word. We can call it anything. That's what I was critiquing, right? But in terms of math, right, and things like that. So the question is, you know, if everyone in the world went brain dead right now, right, and there were 5 rocks, would it still be the case that there were 5 rocks, even though that there was no one to conceive it or no one to like identify it?
Yeah, I already said the quantity is still there. I'm talking about the label, the concept of 5. It doesn't exist without us.
The quantity would be that label.
No, it wouldn't.
Who's
putting the label on it?
Okay, so what you're talking about is us, you know, subscribing a reference.
810. So hold on real quick. 810. Hold on real quick. But what I'm saying is that how do these concepts exist? How do we show that these concepts exist without us? Just because there are objects that, of course, like obviously there were objects around before humans existed, right? There were dinosaurs around before humans existed, and dinosaurs laid 5, 6, 7 eggs before we could even say 5, 6, 7.
6, 7. That's crazy.
But yeah, I know. Before we can even say that, right? But what I'm saying is that if there's no one to actually conceptualize 7, how does 7 exist without no one around to conceptualize it?
No, the concepts would still exist, right? But obviously the referent or 7.
But you're simply saying that it does. How do we show that it does? How do we show the concept exists without something conceptualizing the concept? How do we show that?
What?
Well, what do you mean without us concept? Like without someone there to say, oh, that's 7? We don't need someone there to say that's 7 for that to still be the case that it's 7. Right, because if the quantity is there, it's just going to be what it is.
Yeah, the quantity is there, but things like 6, 7, 10, 14. Where is it? How does it exist? What is it? Where does it actually exist at? Where does it exist?
Well, they're going to be abstractions, right? So they're not going to be like, you know, necessarily.
Right. And abstractions come from minds, right?
Yeah. They do come from minds.
Right. So if there's no minds around, how does it exist?
Yeah, well, then that's how you actually get to a theistic type of argument, right? So when it comes to, so you're saying that the quantity, right, is still going to exist, correct?
Right. So
the quantity is a concept.
Hold on. So what I'm trying to get is to like, because we get into the meat and bones, right? Without these abstracts have to exist with a mind around, and you're simply saying that it is the fact that mind is around, but you actually haven't shown that the fact. You have actually shown that to be the case. How do we actually verify that now? How do we show that to be the case?
No, but okay. So the first question is, okay, if humans were not there, would it be the case that quantity would still be there?
Quantity will still be there.
Okay, so that's simply the concept.
No, it's not. Quantities and concepts are the same thing.
No, but that quantity, like let's say you have 2 things, right? You have a quantity of 2, right?
Yeah, the quantity is there, but not 2.
Yeah,
2 doesn't exist without us, bro.
No, but like that would still be what it is, right? We just wouldn't be there to actually subscribe the number 2 to it, but it would still
where
be
does 2 exists?
The concept would be there.
How would a concept be there if we're not there? There's no mind around to make the abstract.
No, okay. So I think we're kind of speaking past each other here, right?
Right.
So you're agreeing that
I'm agreeing with you that the
quantity is still there.
I'm agreeing with you that the quantity is still there. When I'm talking about the concept of numbers and everything like that is not. And you're saying that it is just because the quantity is there, but that's not true. Quantities and concepts are not the same thing.
Okay, so what's like
what's a concept?
No, but what do you take what do you take a quantity to be? Like if I say, okay, there's a quantity of 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you take that to mean?
I understand exactly what you're saying, right? The quantity is there. It's still 2, right? I get that. I'm talking about is the actual abstraction of
still 2.
What makes the fact that we're saying that is still 2. That's what I'm saying. It depends on us.
No, but like, okay, so like you said before humans existed, you said that there were still 5, 6. You talked about dinosaurs.
So no, there were still things around. There were still things before we existed.
So there can still be quantities absent human minds to, subscribe a number to it.
It can still be a quantity of things, of course, but without us, that doesn't exist.
Humans. It can exist without humans. Like what you're talking about is us just putting a name to it.
Things exist without humans. The abstractions that we make for like math and numbers and everything, those don't exist without humans. Because once humans come into the picture, then we put the labels onto them. But before us, there's no mind around to do it.
Okay, well, that's kind of going to beg the question, right? Because then that's where the God argument would come in. That God would kind of be the grounder of all these things, and it would kind of exist.
Right.
There.
So now, how do we verify this God exists now? Just because things exist doesn't mean a God exists.
Yeah. So I would give another argument, right? So
that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, because we've been at this for the past like 15 minutes, arguments don't get us anywhere. How do we actually verify this?
No, but they do. No, because like when you say this, like we've already went over empiricism, right? And we talked about why empiricism is not going to work, right? Strict empiricism.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that
number one is the case. If someone says, we should believe in strict empiricism, right? That's not going to be an empiric claim, right? So it's going to require knowledge outside of empiricism or what can be obtained through observation, right? It's going to be a philosophical claim.
But you can't gain knowledge without. How do you gain knowledge without any type of any evidence? How do you gain knowledge?
But even to make the claim, you can't gain knowledge without empiricism, right? That's not an empirical claim. That's a philosophical claim. So it's self-defeating, right? Because you're like, to make that claim, you're making a philosophical claim, which is outside of empiricism.
I'm not even sure what you're saying there.
Okay, I'll summarize it, right? So he's
no, it's not your turn.
No, because you're saying because you're saying how like we can't know things outside of empiricism, right? But that's not an empiric claim.
How do you know things without any type of like because when it comes to strict empiricism, right? It's not just you. It's basically I want to say grouping. I'm using the wrong word when I say grouping, right? But it's basically a grouping of the knowledge that we have. It's not just me. Like, for example, I've never observed Paris, but I know Paris exists because there are people from Paris, right? So I don't have to personally experience Paris for me to know that Paris exists.
But then that's going to presuppose but then that's you just presupposing that you can trust other people's sense data.
We have no other choice, bro.
No, but just saying that we have no other choice, like that's like
okay. So it goes back to the question I had in the beginning. This is what about the question I had in the beginning. How do you interact with the universe? How do you interact with existence and reality without using senses? How do you do that?
No, you obviously have to.
Exactly.
Right, but you don't only use your senses. That's the problem, right?
But what I'm saying, you're saying that you use reasoning, but reasoning uses your senses.
No, it doesn't. Right? It's not what you obtain through observation, right? Because you can reason, you don't actually have to.
What do you reason without using a sense?
Literally anything, right? Even like right now, right? I haven't had to actually observe anything, right? All of these, abstractions, right? We have them in our mind. All these arguments, right? They're just through our minds, right?
Yeah, like our mind,
philosophical arguments,
a sense of mind, our sense of self. These are
senses. But that's not what you obtain through observation.
How do you not obtain your sense of self without observing?
No, but Like what do you mean without observing? You don't need to observe anything for you to,
like you gain a sense of
that's
self.
A philosophical argument.
You gain yourself.
Like to say that you have
actually, this is not a sense. This is not a philosophical argument. You gain a sense of self around 3 years old through the mirror test.
Yeah.
Like when they put a dot on your head and you check on it, that's how you know who yourself is. Like through the mirror test.
That's a different thing. No, but that's a different thing than empiricism.
That's not a different thing than empiricism. You're literally looking at yourself.
I said that's a different thing than empiricism.
No, it's not. Like you understand that like people, we do this all the time with experiments, right? Like for people to know they have self-awareness, like when animals have self-awareness, they give them the mirror test to know that they can, and they give 3-year-olds a mirror test. That's how they know how you're developing and everything like that, through the mirror test to see, if you have self-awareness. That self-awareness is still a sense.
No, but here's the problem, right? In that case, right, you're going to presuppose that you can actually trust your sense data, right? But in order to actually argue for that, you're going to need a philosophical justification.
But that I didn't use the philosophical justification. This is literally empirical science of self-awareness.
But like you're presupposing that it works. Like you're presupposing that it's true.
It always works. What do you mean?
You don't just know it through. You don't just know it through. Hold
on. You're saying that we don't know. We don't know the self-awareness test through the self-awareness test. I'm lost.
No, like, okay. I think that there's a bit of confusion as we're talking about, because when you're talking about sense of self, right, that's not necessarily relating to the 5 senses.
Right, but I'm saying that the 5 senses are not the only senses, and that's not your only sense data. You have a sense of balance too. That's not the 5 classical senses.
No, but that's not like empiricism though.
Balance is very empirical. Like there's a whole X Games about balance. Like that. That's empirical.
Like empirics are like just going to be talking about what you learn via observation or experience.
Yeah, you experience yourself. You experience balance.
That's it. I have to step in.
I'm not sure what we're getting at.
I'm gonna
the only way that you can reason and interact with the world is through your senses. There's no other way.
Yeah. So,
so I'm gonna hold on. It's not your turn. I'm gonna get you.
You're gonna go in circles.
All right. Hey, shut up. So, Jaden, I'm gonna go ahead and I do gotta move on because I got people who's on the line and people who want to call in, and I have a whole bunch of questions to answer. But I do appreciate you being up here, right, Jaden?
Yeah, but it was good. Maybe we can talk another time. Sure,
nice. Not a problem.
You can talk about the pan.
Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad. Sorry about that. I do apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad. All right. Give me 1 second, Kepler, because I have someone who's been on hold for 10 minutes now. Hey, 810. Can I get your name? You there, 810? Well, all right. 414. Can I get your
Dylan?
414. Can I get your name?
Dylan.
All right, Dylan. Hold on for me for a second. All right, Kepler, give me a second because I got a whole bunch of people who are speaking and asking me questions. Someone asked me a long time ago, what is Pan-Africanism? Pan-Africanism is the framework of freedom and liberation and self-determination for people of sub-Saharan African descent. It's not about Bantu supremacy. I'm not even sure what that means because I'm not even Bantu. Yeah, I mean, I descended from Akan people, from Yoruba people. I don't believe those people are Bantu. So it's not about Bantu supremacy either. It's about self-determination for sub-Saharan African people. Let me see. I had another question. Yeah, it's all the way far gone. I'm sorry, y'all. I've been talking so long for a while that I can't get to the other questions. But I promise I'm gonna get to them in a second. Y'all can call in if y'all would like. All right, Kepler. What question did you have?
Well, yeah, just to respond, because you guys are like going back and forth, right? So like rationality would be like, I'm just gonna like, this is like a last statement, right? Like rationality would be distinct from like empirical or sensory experience. So that would just be a category error. But you did say you're an empiricist, right?
How do you rationalize things without using your senses?
I just said there's going to be a distinction, right? It's not.
I know you said that. I'm asking you, how do you do it without using your senses? How do you do it?
You know, I'm admitting that some sort of rationality or like conscious thinking would be some sort of sense, right? But it's going to be distinct from some sort of like empirical observation.
Right. How do you rationalize things without any observation?
Yeah, it's a priori. It doesn't need observation.
Like what?
It's conceptual, right? So like a priori or like a synthetic a priori thing would be like math, right? that wouldn't need necessarily any like sort of like observation for you to actually like conceptualize that thing.
So people didn't realize that there are certain quantities of things that they need to keep track of, so they came up with counting.
Yeah, there would be concepts called quantities.
Right. So people realized that there were quantities of things that they need to keep track of, so they made counting. That's an observation.
Oh my god. Yeah, so can you define observation?
Jason.
To accept, press 1.
Hey, Jason, hold on for me. Yeah, things that you interact with.
Yeah, right. And like I just did prior, right? So like rationalism would just be stating that you could find truth through some sort of like rational ability, right? So it'd be distinct from empiricism. But right.
So how do you
I'm not even here to talk
without observing things?
Yeah, like I just stated prior, there's priori things, right? So a priori just means without experience, right?
Yeah,
you can use experience and observation.
Okay, and you said that math is something that we don't experience, but humans had to keep track. Humans had to keep track of things, so we invented math.
It's going to be conceptual, right? So, are you going to be observing conceptual things? That's going to be non-reducible, and that's just going to be in like the
No, you don't observe conceptual things. We make them up. What I'm saying is we make up those things, right? But you're saying that these exist before we made them up, and how do you show that to be true?
I never stated that. What? I never posited that.
You said a priori. We don't have to experience math in order to have math.
Yeah.
How do we?
No, I said synthetic a priori, but yeah.
What does synthetic a priori mean then?
Like synthetic is just like it's like priori judgments that are like necessarily true, like a priori, but provide new information, not just like definitions. So like definitions would just be synthetic, right? So like math would be synthetic.
Okay, so math existed without us creating it.
I don't think you're tracking.
No, I'm not. I'm really trying to understand.
Synthetic, yeah, synthetic just means like it's just a descriptor.
Okay, so math, we created math in order to describe our universe.
Wait, I just need to ask you a question. Are you like a conceptual realist?
I don't even know what that is, bro. I don't really care about that.
So like redness, blueness, dogness, stuff like that exists.
They exist in our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, they exist in our minds, but they don't exist like without us.
Yeah, are they like universal like abstract concepts?
No, they don't exist without us. We made them up.
I just said, are they universal abstract concepts?
What does that mean?
Like they are true in every single possible world, right? This like
how I don't know what every single possible world even means, because we only have this.
I'm not even here to talk about like rationalism and empiricism, right? But you are like you're a strong empiricist, right? Like just for clarification.
Maybe a bit, sure.
Right. So like the main like thing, or like the main blunder with like empiricism, or like it's like formally called like logical positivism, right? So we should only trust things if they can be like empirically verifiable, right? But the problem is that statement empirically verifiable? And then obviously it would not, right? So like if I say that everything should that is true should be empirically verifiable, is that statement empirically verifiable? No, and it would just lead to some sort of like circularity.
Yeah, sure. But we said this before. Like this is the only thing we can use our sense data.
That's not responding to what I just said.
Yeah, I know, but like it gets us nowhere because again, we can't use anything else.
So you're just okay. Yeah, then it's just going to be like arbitrary. You're saying, oh well, that's the only options we have to. It's not a justification.
That is the only option.
No, that's arbitrary. Okay, that doesn't prove anything.
Okay,
it's just arbitrary.
So Kepler. How do you interact with the reality without using your senses?
What do you consider rationality a sense?
No, not really. Rationality is something that we made up. Again, I'm asking you, how do we actually interact with our universe without using the senses? How do you do that?
So, do you know what metaphysics is?
I understand what metaphysics is. You're just not answering my question. How do you interact with the universe without using your senses?
Well, how would your senses lead to meta? You can't be an empiricist. You can't intertwine metaphysics and empiricism.
I'm not asking you about metaphysics. I'm asking you,
dude,
how do you actually interact with? Oh my goodness! I'm not asking you about metaphysics. I'm asking you, how do you interact with reality, with our universe, without using senses. How do you do that?
Yeah, like I just stated, prior rationality.
Prior rationality uses your senses.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you just asked. No, I just asked you prior, and you didn't give me an actual answer. Right. This is just gonna be like a category error. Right. So like we wouldn't like depict rationality
as such a waste of time, bro. I'm not doing this. Can't answer a simple question. How do you interact with the universe without using your senses? Oh, what's metaphysics? The fuck? Lightbringer, give me a moment. Hey, Dylan, how's it going?
I'm good. It's Jason. What's up, man?
Jason, how's it going, Jason? All right, man.
Good.
Are you at least 18? And I'm a leftist, atheist, and a Pan-African. What questions do you have for me?
Well, I'm kind of just, I guess I stumbled across you. Yeah, I'm well over 18. I stumbled across you just live here, and you guys were talking about rationalizing imperialism. I think I have a story, like a personal experience that would kind of explain, maybe help you see our side a little bit.
Call from.
For real.
Not sure what happened to Jason there. 810, how's it going? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, how's it going?
Hey, brother.
I'm all right. Can I get your name, please?
Say it again, brother.
Can I get your name, please?
Terrell.
Terrell. How's it going, Terrell?
Yes,
are you at least 18?
All is well, brother.
All good. All right. I'm a leftist, atheist, and Pan-African. What a question did you have for me?
Hey, I was listening to you talk, and I was just curious. Why are you atheist?
I have no reason to believe in a God, and it's not necessary for me to live a good life.
Okay, I can definitely understand and believe that. For giving a multitude information to live a good life based off, I get to the day history. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Probably can agree on religion from that standpoint. But I was hearing you talk about numbers not being real. What do you mean by that?
Numbers not being what?
Real. You kept telling the guy like the quantity is real, but the number isn't real.
Yeah, no, like numbers are labels, right? That's the concept that we came up in order to like keep track of things because we just had to. It was necessary. So, but
Right.
without us, like the number 2 conceptually isn't anywhere. Like concepts don't exist without a mind to conceive of them, obviously. So without any minds like us around, without any abstract minds like ours around, they don't exist.
When you say a concept, do you mean like would quantity be a concept?
Even quantity in itself could be a concept. Yeah. Now I'm not saying that things don't exist. Things definitely exist, but like the labels that we put on them, the language that we use to describe it, those don't exist without us.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But it's kind of kind of like super duper basic almost. Like that you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. Like do you think monkeys use quantity for an importance of anything?
I'm not sure. Because I'm not a biologist in that way, so I wouldn't know. I think they can count. I know that a lot of them can use sign language.
I mean? Like we had to be, you know what I mean? It would just be common sense to understand pretty much anything looking to survive likely is using quantity because it almost makes no sense to not have some understanding of it. You know, if you're a monkey, you got 4 kids, and then you go back to the tree and you only got 3. Whether you call it 3 or you call it hoo-hoo,
something is missing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know something is missing because you're the quantity is missing. So that would mean the concept of that is real. Like you have to admit it then, because everything.
I mean, that would show that the great apes like chimpanzees and gorillas and humans all share a certain way to conceptualize things, but it wouldn't show that because if you're going to say that the number 3 it exists outside of our minds, then where is it? Like how do we get there, and how do we know?
The number 3, I think. Yeah, I think what you're saying is language language.
Language doesn't exist without us.
The number 3. When you say the number 3 don't exist, that's kind of you only talk about this specific language. You're not talking about the understanding of quantity no more, right?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like you said, the number 3 don't exist outside of our mind, right? But we know that the number 3 represents an actual tangible thing. That thing being the quantity of these. We keep using the word 3 because we know what the word 3 means, which is why we can use it and understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
instead of saying,
if we were ants, whether we clicked our teeth or we stumped our feet, everything that communicates with something else, I can probably prove they likely have an understanding of quantity.
Like ants and stuff like that.
No
I mean, sure. Like I think for any organism to survive, shout out to the TBV raid. I think for any organism to survive, they're going to need to understand things about their environment and their world, right? But ants have no concept of what we are. They have no idea what we. They probably perceive us as just part of the environment, right? So they have no clue what we are. So it's like we have to think about stuff like that. So if they have no clue what we are because they have no concept of what a human is, then can we say they have a concept of language, or are they simply interacting with their environment through base instincts?
So when you say that, what's the importance of it?
Because I'm saying, because it seems that your argument is leaning towards, because organisms may have a concept of like quantities and maybe even a concept of counting, like how maybe some of the great apes do. Therefore, that makes number and mathematics exist outside of us. But how do we actually show that to be true?
How do we show that mathematics exists outside of us?
Right.
Well, we got to understand what mathematics is.
It's a language.
It's simply, there we go. It's a language. It's a language used to understand something. And what is understanding consistently is quantity and measurements, usually. Quantity and measurement.
Right.
So to communicate quantity and measurements, we use our vocal cords to vibrate, and then we chose a specific sound that eventually we all agreed upon. Eventually. I'm sure that started off as clicks, and then it came to some woos, and then eventually after the woos, it sounded more like the word 3.
Right, exactly.
So that's the existence of the vibration that we're using to communicate. It doesn't need to, like, everybody don't need to use that. Like, every being doesn't need to use that for what we're using it to represent mean. An ant isn't. There's no way a spider can build a successful web without the understanding of, if you only build you know what I mean, without understanding. Understanding measurements.
I mean, like the thing is, they would have to, because evolution requires it, right? Because if they didn't, if millions of years of spider ancestors doing, they pass down their genetic information, right? They that's how organisms learn things, but like they had to
information.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is that they had to know, or they had to become strong enough, or the women had to become strong enough for them to survive. That doesn't mean that they understand mathematics.
I want to cut you off. Not to cut you off. I want you to explain what you meant by that before we go too far. What do you mean genetic information?
What I'm saying is that spiders whose webbing weren't strong enough to hold flies, they didn't survive because they starved to death, and then they didn't pass anything along. So the spiders who webbings was strong enough to hold flies, they're the ones who survived, and they're the ones who passed on that genetics to their offspring. And those stuff like that.
That wasn't genetics that passed that on. Like, I don't know how to eat because I genetically know how to eat. I know how to eat because I was showed to eat.
No, even that was genetic, because that came from the first multicellular organisms, like absorbing another one. That's where that came from. Like, we passed that along because
maybe I'm misunderstanding what that means. If for me, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because I actually do want to know if I'm wrong.
So this is what I'm talking about. For example, the example of spiders, right? Spiders create webs and they use that web to catch prey. The spiders who had webbing, their silk webbing was too weak in order to hold the prey, in order for them to eat later. Those spiders died because they starved to death. But the spiders whose webbing was strong enough to hold prey, they survived because they were able to eat, they were able to reproduce, and they passed along those genes, their strong webbing genes, on to their offspring, and on and on and on and on.
I don't think it's a genetic thing.
All right, so you're saying you're saying that these spiders taught their children how to have strong webbing, and those children didn't have taught their offspring how to have strong webbing, and that strong webbing wasn't a genetic component.
I want to make sure I'm clearing it up here. It's not. I'm not necessarily saying that. That would clearly that's wrong. What I'm saying is you have a spider. Boom. You got one survive, one don't. The one who survives, when he or she has a baby, now I know how spiders work. When that baby is there, and I have to now teach this baby how to survive. And even if I don't teach it, it will watch me, because we tend to imitate that who was taking care of us.
That's not how spiders work.
Well, how do you know that for a fact? I'm asking you a question.
Like you can look up what was I going to say again? You can look up there are studies on this, right? You can look up people who are like arachnid scientists. Like if you ever watch Animal Planet, they'll show you a lot of times spiders are burst through their mother's belly, and the mother dies, and they go on to survive on their own. It's all base instinct. Like they don't teach their offspring anything.
Question. And that makes sense. So let's say that does make sense, and I'm not disagreeing with it, because if you say it out loud, it makes sense when I hear it. So I think that would once again breed a consistent thing, because right now today, do you think that there's no spiders dying because they suck at webbing today?
Yeah, there could be spiders dying because they suck at webbing. So
that's contradictory to what you just said, though.
Right. What I'm saying.
If they got here.
Hold on. What I'm saying is that you understand that there are dominant genes and there are recessive genes. Those who have weak webbing just had recessive genes, and they die, so they don't pass on. They don't pass on those genes.
See that whole concept in of itself makes no sense.
That's like genetics, bro. I understand that it is not intuitive, but that's the genetics. Like, have you ever seen a person like with I'm not sure what the common word for is now, but they have dwarfism, right? There are people who have dwarfism and whose parents are like super tall, and there are people like myself, right? My uncle was tall, my granddad was tall, my dad is short, so I'm short. You know what I mean? Right. And what's gonna happen is when I have children, because my wife, she in her part of the family, they have big genes. Like her sister is 6'2", but she's around my height. You know what I mean? So our kids are probably gonna be tall because of her side of the family. It's all just recessive and dominant genes.
It's a possibility for sure. But I agree with what you're saying. What I'm saying is that whether you have tall children or not, their likelihood of survival won't be due to their tallness. It will be due to their ability to adapt to their failures.
Right, exactly. Because humans are social species. Right, I understand, because we're a different type of species. We're a social species. Right now, we spend a lot of time with our offspring. Right, social species do that. So, like, that's not even just humans. That's chimpanzees. That's lions. Spiders are not like that. Spiders are not social creatures. They're solitary.
I got a question. Because you said something that was contradictory. Then you just summed it up. Well, that's how spiders work. I don't believe that. So, do we disagree to disagree and keep moving forward?
Yeah, we'll have to keep moving forward, because you're disagreeing with like the reality situation. Spiders are not social creatures, bro. So majority of them do not raise their young. They die.
I agree. So, but I'm saying, if you're saying the spiders who don't make it, they didn't make it because of genetics, not because they couldn't adapt on the fly. That makes no sense.
How does it not? Like, I mean, it's not just one or the other, right? I'm pretty sure, like, if you have spiders born with weak webbing, so some genes must have passed on. Yeah, so like it's you're gonna have a luck of the draw sometimes. So it's not just one or the other. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is like it's
See,
more
that,
like
but even
more
that
likely or
makes
not.
but even that makes no sense because if that was the case, this species would have died off by now.
No, incorrect.
Explain how not.
You're
Well,
saying that
let
if
me explain. How about this? Can I explain why not?
let
And
me
you tell me where I'm wrong at.
yeah, so explain.
Okay, thank you. If you have a spider, boom, that spider has two offspring. One have genetic. No, you said spiders. Let's say I'm a spider. Boom, I have a child. Boom, I give my child weak genetics. That spider dies off. If that consistently happens, eventually we will go extinct because it's a genetic thing. It's not a ability to understand webbing at this point. It's just genetic. You genetically incapable. Like somebody with Down syndrome is genetically incapable of doing above average things.
Right. But what I'm saying is that you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how species work, right? Because it's not just going to be two spiders. It's going to be thousands, millions, sometimes even billions of them. It's not just going to be one. And like if you have those type of odds, whereas billions of organisms within a species, some of them are going to be lucky enough to pass on their genes, even if their webbing isn't as strong as the others. Like it's just going to happen. It's going to be a luck of the draw. The same thing with the human species. There was a time where humans, Homo sapiens, there were only about 1,500 to 10,000 of us on the entire planet, but now there's billions of us because we were just able to pass it on. Like the 15 to like the six to 10,000 of us were just we figured it out. We adapted to our environment because that's just what we had to do, right? But we're a social species, but spiders are not. They survive different ways. Bears are not social either. They survive a different way.
But so how about give me a creature? Is there any fish or mammal? Is there any other is this consistent anywhere else in the universe, or did I just happen to pick the one species who
is what consistent?
Pass stuff on?
Is what consistent?
The genetic passing on of information. I don't.
Every
I don't
organism works that way on this planet, bro. Even plants, they all pass on their genetics, all of them.
What about humans? Do humans work that way?
Yeah, humans pass on our genetics. If you see a picture of my dad, you'll say that's my twin. He passes on his genes.
But that's genetic. But whether you know how to eat or not, that's not genetic.
Whether you know how to eat or not, yeah. Whether you know how to, yeah, actually that is whether you know how to eat or not. Humans know how to eat things. Like that's something that's like you don't really have to teach someone how to eat. They know that they have to put something towards their mouth and swallow it.
Anything in this world how to eat?
No.
Think about that. Okay, so then that we can't chuck that up to genetics. Then that's just how the universe made us.
That's literally genetics, bro. It's in our genes to know how to eat. It's even in human genes to know what language is.
But
all right, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and move on. I do appreciate you though, bro. All right, Lightbringer, is that your name?
Lightbearer.
Lightbearer, how's it going? Can I get you your age, please? And what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I sided with you on Pan-Africanism. You know, even though it's 99%, the 1% is just about the African psychology that kind of keeps killing us ourselves. It doesn't have to do with foreign or Western influence. Africans have a very black rooted people have a very bad mindset towards things. So yeah, I could let that go. Since I said it to 99%, lefties, I side with you also on that 99%. So I wouldn't worry you a lot about that. I think what I did not side with you at all is the atheist, and that's where maybe I will have to concentrate on.
All right, sure. Like we can talk about why I'm an atheist. I just have no reason to believe in a God. Basically, that's it. And I can live a we can live a good life without believing in any gods either. If it was up to me, if black people or African people were to choose a spirituality, I would say we should go back to what was given to us before the colonizer. Christianity and Islam are foreign religions. They have nothing to do with us. And not only that, they were used to justify our enslavement. They were used to justify our denigration. Even right now in Africa right now, a lot of people don't even learn about pre-colonial history. Like they only learn about colonization and how the white man civilized Africa, and we know that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And that was done through Christian colonialism. You see what I mean? So it's like I don't think we need it. Now, if a person wants to be Christian, like they can do that to their heart's content, right? I'm not gonna say to not be. It's just that I don't see a good reason to do so. And I honestly don't think any African descendant person should be Christian or Muslim, because these are the religions of our enslavers. And I don't think we should adopt the religion of our enslavers. We should go back to I don't even want to speak English at the moment. I'd rather be speaking Yoruba or Swahili or Ibu or Akans or all of the other languages that exist in Africa. That's what we should be speaking. Those should be our dominant languages instead of what the colonizer gave us.
So if I get your point right, you are not totally an atheist. You just don't want to side with the Western or European imposed religions or the Arabian imposed religions, like Islam and Christianity.
No, I'm a complete atheist. I don't like the traditional African religions. I don't think they exist either. Like I don't think Shango is a real person. That doesn't exist. Like I don't believe in any gods, spirits, or anything like that. Right. So it's like, now I respect African traditional religion. I respect it because that's where my ancestors came from. So I respect it. But am I going to light a candle to Papa Legba? No, because I don't think it exists. Give me 1 second.
Call from
Nicholas.
Hey, Nicholas, give me 1 second. All right. Be right back with you.
Take it.
Yeah. So I'm not going to light a candle to Papa Legba because I don't think La Papa Legba exists. But will I respect the traditions? Will I respect Fet Gede? Will I respect Day of the Dead over in Haiti? Yeah, hell yeah, I would. I would join in the festivities, all that good stuff.
Okay, so you believe Africa could have had one major or agreed language, a universal language for all Africans to agree on to speak?
100%. I think we could have developed that without influence from the colonizer. As a matter of fact, what I think is that we existed in a type of community or environment where one dominant language wasn't even needed. I watch some like African TV, right? One series that's on Netflix, I should check that out, called Bad Influencer on Netflix. On Netflix, Bad Influencer, they switch between like 6-7 different languages all at once, and everyone understands each other. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's how Africa was. We didn't need one dominant language to be over another. We all just understood it. Yeah, I mean, and that's how it could have been in Africa without influence from the colonizer. We all could have been speaking our language or our ethnic group's language and understand what the other ethnic group is saying and switch between those languages seamlessly without any issue. Because when I was on a Bad Influencer, they spoke Afrikaans, they spoke English, and they spoke Zulu, they spoke Khoisa, they spoke several different languages, and they seamlessly said 5 words that were all in different languages, and they all understood what they were saying. It was a seamless transition. We don't need a dominant language. That's not how the African environment worked, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That shows the community that's there. That's communal. And we can't easily go back to that, but we can go back to that. We just don't necessarily need a dominant language. That's in my opinion, at least. You can tell me what you think.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask if you've lived in Africa or you live in Africa currently.
No, I don't live there. I live in the United States.
Okay, but have you been to Africa before?
No. I want to go though. I want to go to me and wifey's planning to go to Ghana, and I want to go to Tanzania because I want to see the Indian Ocean. I want to see every single ocean before I pass away. That's on my my bucket list.
Okay, so I'm speaking from Ghana. It's quite clear since you've never been to Africa, you really don't know how the dynamics of languages. African language is so as diverse as the ethnicities that are located in Africa. African culture is also as diverse as the tribes that are located in Africa. So pre-colonial rule or pre-imperialist or pre-slavery, Africans were living in tribes, and the tribes influence the culture, and the tribes influence the language. Most people will only accept to speak another tribe's language if there were only two ways: if there was a war and one conquered the other, or there was an agreed trade. And per history or per what we know from sub-Saharan Africa, we were more used to oral speaking. We weren't really used to translating how we spoke into characters. So much of these things were in sub-Saharan Africa was done after the white man was trying to trade with us. So what I'm trying to say is that Africans don't buy into the idea of speaking another tribe's language because they feel you are infiltrating their identity. So right here in Ghana, it's a very small country, but we have thousands or hundreds of different languages that we speak. But people have just accepted to speak one dominant language, which is the local Asante P from the Asante tribe, because they, pre Ghana, they used to be the dominant force. They used to be more, and they influenced everything in Ghana, and per that reason, most tribes just accepted to speak the Akan language of the Asante tribe. So what I'm just saying that it happens across all African countries. All tribes do not want to speak another tribe's language because they feel you are not part of them. You are infiltrating their identity. And that is why I said that's the 1% of Pan-Africanism. I think the good slavery did, that's one thing about slavery that it did to Africans, because it brought our pain and the equal suffering we had, we realized we needed to come together, because before the white man came in, we were just living tribes, clans, small groups, and just fighting each other. So I think that's one time we have to give props to the European or to the enslavement, because it made Africans come together to, share an equal identity, because we didn't have that, prior to the slavery.
I think that's bullshit. I think that's total bullshit, because you literally named a powerful African kingdom that existed before slavery, before colonialism, where they had a stable empire, they had trade networks, they had people living under them, they had multiple tribes living under them, and there was no huge issue, and that was Ashanti. Yeah, I mean, like Ashanti existed, the Ghana Empire existed, which is what Ghana is named after. Mali existed, Dahomey existed, the Luba states, the Great Zimbabwe's, Congo existed. All of these civilizations existed that had multiple tribes under them, and sure, there was a lingua franca between them. But you're saying that all these tribes that were living under the same kingdom had no peace between them, and they were under constant fighting? That's BS. Like there was functional continuous societies pre-colonialism that colonialism actually interrupted. So I think it's crap to say. I think it's crap to say that it was outsiders that forced Africans to come together in order to fight something. There were already continuous societies happening that colonialism actually interrupted. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I think it's BS to say that we needed that in order to come together. No, we didn't, bro. If colonialism never happened, we all would have been living in Ashanti or the Congo Kingdom and be okay. Yeah, I mean, not 100% okay. Humans are humans. They will still be fighting. what I'm saying? So of course there'll still be fighting, there'll still be civil wars, stuff like that will always happen. But Africa wouldn't be the unstable that it is today. Like I think that entire concept of, I'm giving up my identity in order to speak another language, I think that came in with colonialism, not before. I'm pretty sure there was some fighting between the tribes that happened before that. Of course that happened. Humans are humans. It wasn't all, good and well, all, exotic and everything like that and all perfect. And, I don't want to fantasize it. Of course there were problems, but to say that, it was only problems and not continuous societies and cultures that colonialism then came in and interrupted and caused more friction than was there. Like, nah, bro. Like, colonialism was the worst thing that happened to Africa, bro.
So it's quite simple what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is that before you can get a universal language, one has to be in the dominant side or in the dominant opposition. No tribe would like to accept your language if you have no dominant power over them, because that's how the African tribes were structured. Even up to today, that's how all African tribes are structured. You come to Ghana or you go to Nigeria, they agree to speak one dominant language because that's how they can trade. That's how they can get access to resources in the country. But they still don't agree that they share the same identity. The only reason Africans do accept to share the same identity is because of slavery. And I'm speaking like this because I've been living in Ghana for my whole life. And I could still sense it. You could
All right.
still
So, Lightbearer, this is my question.
sense
This is my question, Lightbearer. Are you saying that because we have a different identity, that makes you my enemy?
No, I'm not saying because we share different identity.
So okay, cool. That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking in terms of language.
No, hold on. I got you. I understand. I want to speak my language with my tribe, and you want to speak your language with your tribe. That doesn't necessarily make us enemies, though, right?
Very well.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily make us enemies. So I think that mindset, where if I'm speaking your tribal language, I'm giving up my identity. Therefore, like, you have to be my enemy. That came with colonialism. That's what I'm saying. Because you just said you speaking another tribe's language doesn't mean you give up your identity. Yeah, I mean, and they don't necessarily have to be your enemy. So that type of friction is unnecessary. That's what I mean. I think the way that it is now, that friction that exists, that was created by colonialism. Now, I'm not saying that it was never around in Africa. Of course it was. But the way that it is now, where I have to give up my entire identity just to speak another language, it's kind of ridiculous. And you're saying the same thing.
So if I get you right, I don't know how it really correlates with that what I just said. But I was just only trying to say that people only accept to speak a universal language when the language they are accepting is on the dominant side. It's literally the people or the opposition that has access to resources. I agree to speak English because that's how I'm able to communicate to masses of people across the globe. I can't speak in my local dialect because not much people, in the world speak the local dialect in Africa here.
So right, of course. No, I agree with that, right? That makes sense. I get that. That makes sense. If I were to go over to China, I would have to speak Mandarin or Cantonese because that's the language. And Chinese businessmen need to speak English because that's the language of business and for around the world. Of course, I get over in Africa, there are Akan people, Igbo people, Yoruba people, and they're going to speak their languages. But for them to speak to each other, the dominant language right now is English because of colonialism. I'm saying the dominant language wasn't English. If colonialism never happened, Yoruba, Igbo, and Iwe and Akan people, they can still talk to each other, right? They'll just have to speak to an Akan person and an Akan. And they'll have to speak to a Yoruba person and Yoruba. And they will trade with each other that way. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that a dominant language doesn't have to be the case. Or for me, if I'm a Yoruba person, for me to speak Hausa, I need to give up my whole identity. That doesn't make sense to me. That's what I'm trying to say. I understand that what you're saying, right? That's how it is in Africa right now. I'm saying that it shouldn't be. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm asking why is it that way? I think that friction is colonial. It doesn't have to be that way, because obviously these tribes were able to trade before colonialism, and they weren't constantly at war all the time. So why is it different now? That came from colonialism. That's what I'm trying to say. I understand that right now we all have to speak English because that's the language of business. That's the lingua franca of international trade. That's the lingua franca of colonialism. We all know that, right? I get that part. When I go to Haiti, I speak Haitian Creole. When I come to America, I speak English. We have to do that. I get that part. What I'm saying is that me speaking Haitian Creole, and then I have to go over to the Dominican side to speak Spanish, and then I have to go over to Jamaica and speak English again or speak patois. That doesn't mean I'm giving up my identity as a Haitian. It's just that this is what I have to do to speak to those people. And they're not necessarily my enemy, or I'm not necessarily giving up my entire identity just because I have to speak their language. That part doesn't make sense. I think that part is colonial. That's what I'm trying to say. I hope that makes sense. All right, bro. I'm gonna have to move on. I do appreciate you. I think I got one more person on the line. 815. How's it going? Can I get your name again, please?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, I do apologize for keeping you on hold for that long. Nicholas, how's it going? Can I well, I already got your name, Nicholas, but I am a leftist, atheist, and Pan-African. What question did you have for me?
I had a few, actually. For one, I mean, I saw the prompt, obviously, and I wanted to know, what do you think about men and women's sports? This is an issue for me.
Men and women's sports? What do you mean? Like transgender women?
Yeah.
That should be decided up to the scientific community. I don't really have a lot of opinion on it. As far as I know from the research that we have, enough hormone therapy will equalize the results as far as the information that I have. But if more information comes out to say that that's not the case, then we'll have to figure something out. I think that should be up to the scientific community, because a lot of us are just throwing in our opinions and not really keeping up with the research. But if people have research, I'll give you this, right? There's not a lot of it. There's not a lot of research. We should be researching this more. Yeah, I mean, we should be definitely researching it more to see what happens to transgender women, what happens to transgender men when they join these gender sports. Like, is there an unfair balance, et cetera, et cetera? I think we all agree that a male who's gone through puberty, because males are typically stronger than females. We all know that. Now, if they transition, if they do the hormone therapy, et cetera, does it equal out? But the small amount of information that we have right now shows that it does. But if we get more information that it doesn't, false. then cool.
That would be false. I think you're going off the testosterone amounts are equaled out, but there are many other factors.
I'm talking about those factors too. I'm talking about those factors too, like hemoglobin and stuff like that. They tested for that too.
Well, not all factors. I mean, height, arm length, those are factors that aren't changed. I mean, reach is an extremely important thing in sports. Mm-hmm. I would know height as well. Heart size is, even after HRT, still around, I think, 15% bigger. Lung size is around, I think, 30 or 40% bigger, mm-hmm. even after HRT. So these are all bone density is also a very big thing. There's countless factors that do not change after HRT that provide an objective competitive advantage.
Right. How would you explain the fact that transgender women still lose to cisgender women then?
Say again?
How would you explain the fact that transgender women still consistently lose to cisgender women?
They're not good at the sport. If you have regardless of if they're losing or not, they still have objective biological advantages. I mean, you could take a world champion female versus an average man. The average man could have biological advantages, but not be skilled enough to win at the sport. So mm-hmm. just because they're winning doesn't mean it's a fair competition.
All right. So you're saying that these transgender women who have been training their most of a lot of their adult lives for these things just suck.
I mean, a lot of them do. Yes, a lot of the main cases of transgender women or men entering women's sports are often low-ranked males in the. But before they transition, they were often lower ranked, and after transitioning to female athletics, they often became higher ranked. I think the most famous example of this, I'm sure you've heard of her, Leah Thomas.
She's still lower ranked.
Not really. I mean, she won a couple regionals. She's definitely not lower ranked, at least compared to what
she's lower ranked. She's in like the 150s, and the entire thing that caused
before he was even lower.
And the entire thing that caused she was like still around the 150s, but the entire thing that caused this entire issue, she got 5th place. So it's like she got 5th place out of like 7.
She got a podium finish at 1st place.
When?
It was at a regional. I forget the exact event, but she did finish 1st place ahead of a biological female. I believe the
so she got better?
Times were exactly. Say again?
She got better then?
Yes. Well, she got the 1st place medal. I believe it was forget which event it was, but they timed exactly the same. And Leah Thomas was awarded the gold medal for whatever reason. But
right. So they got she got the same time against someone else. Thomas, right? She's always been mid. Like even when she was a male, she was mid. When she transitioned over to the women's side, she was mid. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you said, they just suck at the sport, right? But what I'm saying is that from the as far as what I've seen from the small information that we have, a lot of these things equal out. They're not like 100. Now it's small information, right? Like there is information that what you have on your side where the competitive advantage is still there, and there's studies that the competitive advantage is not there. So that means that we should be studying this more, correct?
Not exactly. I mean, the studies I'm referring to a broader range of studies. You're referring to a specific study which references things like muscle size, testosterone, hemoglobin.
No, I was referencing a broader size too. Let me pull it up.
Well, I mean, I know what you're referencing. HRT usually equals out a fair bit of competitive advantages, but definitely not all. And the reason I believe, and I think you should too, it should be banned is one day, if it isn't banned, there's going to be a male that doesn't suck at the sport, that does have those objective advantages such as height, reach, bone density.
I think it's kind of ridiculous to say that every single transgender woman were simply males who suck at the sport. That's kind of ridiculous.
Well, considering there's only been like about 12 of them, it's rather reasonable. There's only been around. Yes, I think the amount was like 0.00, either 0.002 or 0.0002. There's only like
there's not a lot. There's not a lot
transgender athletes, so
right. There's not a lot.
Fair statement to say they just suck.
I don't think that's a fair statement to say because you're saying that because. How much are there? Are there hundreds of trans athletes or like only a handful, like 5 or 6?
There's only a handful, and they all were both, or not both. All of them were ranked quite low in male and female sports, so they just flat out.
Hold on, what evidence do we have of that? Where's to say that? Because a lot of these,
each individual case, there's not many of them.
What I'm saying is that, hold on, it's not. You're saying there's only 12 trans athletes on the entire planet. That doesn't make any sense.
And no, not on the entire planet.
Right, exactly. So there's no way that there's going to be a transgender woman who's never been part of the sport. Like they're going to be part of the sport, right? I'm talking about like entered into the sport being trans. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm talking about competitive sports like NCAA.
I'm talking about competitive sports. What I'm saying is that you're saying that these people were over on the male side, they sucked, then they transition over to the female side. But that's not really how being transgender works.
What do you mean that's not how being transgender? I'm not quite sure what you mean there.
What I'm saying is that no, that's not objective. What I'm saying is that you understand that being trans is something that's internal, right? It starts like way earlier than puberty. Like they don't just become They don't just become they don't just become transgender at 14-year-old because they got kicked off the soccer team or some shit. Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing to say. I mean, if you thought that out a little bit, I'm sure you'd realize why. Because I mean, being transgender or gay or whatever is kind of a sexual thing. To say that children have sexual preferences before puberty is
being transgender is not a sexual preference.
Yeah, kind of is.
No, it is not. Being transgender is being transgender.
Sexual.
Being transgender is not a sexual thing. It's a gender identity.
Gender and sex are
two different things.
No, they're quite the same. The definition.
No, they're not.
Years ago has been the exact same for thousands of years.
No, it hasn't.
Medical studies, even 100 years ago, referenced them as the exact same. But
I know hundreds of years ago they referenced exact things, but we do know that words. Hold on, wait. Hold on, let me finish. Sex and gender are not the same thing, and we know they're not. And we know that gender is a social category because of how it operates in our society. Gender changes in our society. Even ancient people had a completely different concept of gender than what we have today.
Well, in that case, I'll provide the famous question: what is a woman? If gender is changing, I want you to define what is a woman? What is a man?
A woman is an adult. A woman is an adult human female, or anyone whose gender identity aligns with what we assign to female.
So a woman, which is a gender, an adult human female, a female is a sex, which means gender and sex.
You cut off half my definition.
All right, continue.
I already said it. Adult human female, or any person, or any adult person whose personal sense of self aligns with what we assign to female. What we socially assign to female.
That's an illogical definition, because just because you think it doesn't mean you are it. Hopefully you realize that. I mean,
but you understand that you understand
align with it doesn't mean they are female. I understand the first part of your definition.
Hold on. Listen, they understand that they're not female. They understand that they're male. We all get that. What we're talking about is gender identity, which is something that's internal. That happens in your mind, and we have evidence for that too. There's a neurochemical basis for it. We know gender identity happens in your mind. It's not something that they just decide to do. Just like being gay, it's not something that they just decide. I know you personally don't think that, but that's what the neuroscience says. It's not something that they just personally decide to do.
I'm open to believe, anything, but I mean, back to the core of the debate, I don't think it's fair to have biological advantages in sports. I think it should be an equal level playing field.
We all have biological advantages in sports. I have LeBron James is
not objective.
LeBron James has an objective biological advantage over me because he's 6'8" and I'm 5'4". Should I never play basketball?
I mean, are you asking me that personally? No, but I mean, if you were good at it,
I'm still gonna play basketball. I'm actually pretty good at it, but I'm never gonna beat LeBron James. He has a biological advantage over me.
Well, I mean, in some sports, though, if we're taking averages, or even the best of the best, we're talking about competitive sports. So we're not, I mean, no offense to you, 5'4", but
I'm never going to join the NBA.
The best of the best.
Yeah.
Say again?
I'm never going to join the NBA.
Yeah, we're talking competitive sports. I mean, we're taking the best of the best, which, I mean, once again, no offense to you, they're not going to be 5'4". And if those taller men,
unless they're
were to transition to, say, the WNBA, since these are the top of the top, they are almost all certainly, or at least on average, going to be taller, longer, stronger, or I'm not even going to say stronger, but have a much, much larger lung capacity, better oxygen. Oh my God, I can't talk. Oxygenation. There's multiple biological advantages that aren't leveled out, and there are some that are, but I said,
exactly. So we need to
many. So I don't think it's fair to have women compete against that.
So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That we need to actually research this more. That's why I said I don't really have a big opinion on it. We have to research it more.
Research that we have, such as height, wingspan not being changed, heart size being 15% larger.
So with the
lung capacity being around 40% larger, do you think that's fair?
But I don't know. That's the thing. Because that can happen.
No, 40% larger lungs.
Hold on. Calm down for a second. Heart and lung capacity are not the only thing that goes into competitive sports, right?
Of course not. They are
right. So yeah,
big factor.
I get that. But even in between women, that changes. Even in between cisgender women, that changes very highly. Depending, correct?
Not really. I mean, generally it's close, relatively the same. And once again, you're using the example of a particular.
Not exactly. There was a woman who's I think she was an African woman who had I think it was back in the Olympics, probably 2 years ago, where they didn't want her to be in the in the Olympics anymore because she had a huge advantage over the rest.
All right. I mean, you're taking very rare individual cases.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking generally. We're talking the general, and I think generally, well, not even generally, completely, men should not be allowed in women's sports. I mean, for this reason, on average, I mean, we're not taking specific cases. Averages matter, especially in this, because it's a very general field. So on average, men should not be allowed in women's sports.
I got you. So we already said that there are research out there that shows that some of these things average out, but some of these things don't average out, which means that we need to keep looking at it instead of just completely cutting it off. Because at the end of the day, participation in sports has already been, for every single country out there, a human right to do. You know what I mean? So is are we going to take away the right now? We have to go ahead and research this more. If there is an objective advantage even after transition, and it's conclusive, multiple studies for a whole decade, study after study after study after study after study, thousands of them show that yes, it is an advantage even after transition. And cool, we can go ahead and move on from it and try to figure something out on how to fairly put transgender people into sports, since it's their human right to participate in. But right now, we just don't have enough information to do that yet.
I that's where I disagree. I think we do. I mean, would you agree that height is an objective advantage in sports?
Depends on which sport you're talking about.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, it can't be general. It depends on which sport.
Basketball.
Basketball is an advantage, yes.
Soccer, swimming, football.
Swimming is an advantage. Football, it depends on your position.
Generally.
It depends on your position. It can't be general. It depends on your position. A tall quarterback and a tall wide receiver are definitely an advantage. A shorter running back is an advantage than a taller running back. It depends on your position.
Well, my point is generally, and I think this, height is an advantage along with.
Depends on your sport, and even depends on your position in the sport. That's what I'm saying.
Still, the rule remains, generally it is an advantage. You can't.
No, it depends.
The vast majority
it's not general.
Sports,
it depends, bro.
All right, I'll use.
It depends.
It does not change. No, it does not depend with lung capacity. That's just a better cardio all around. That is not.
Do you need better lung capacity for bowling, bro?
I'm not talking about.
It's bowling. A sport. It's a competitive sport. That's what I'm saying. It depends.
All right. Well, generally speaking,
even archery depends.
Archery,
shooting depends. Now, now in archery, your arms being longer, yeah, that's an advantage, sure.
Which is associated with height.
It's associated with height, yeah, of course. Yeah, so that could be an advantage. That's what I'm saying. It all depends, bro.
Once again, men would have an advantage there. I mean, we're talking mainstream sports.
I got you. All right, so now we're talking about mainstream sports. Cool. Mainstream sports. All right, cool.
That's kind of the debate in general. Mainstream sports. I mean, no one's really gonna care about some sport that only has 200, 300 actual competitors in it. We're talking football, basketball, sports that I hate to say, but really are the only ones that matter. So, I mean, men have an objective advantage. I think so, but I think that's just personal opinion, so we can put that aside. But men do have an objective advantage in these sports, like lung capacity.
I don't deny that. I don't deny that males have an advantage. the question then, because I said this from the beginning, we all understand that males are typically taller and stronger than females. We all get that. The question then becomes, when transition happens, do those advantages stay the same or go away? And when we research this, yes, there is research that says that even after the transition, there's still advantages, and there's research that says that after the transition, the advantages equal out. So it's like, what do we go with now? We need to. That's what I'm saying. We need to actually study this more because we don't have enough yet, bro.
Well,
because even in your broad studies, they're still as limited as mine. So we need to actually study. We actually have to study it out.
The studies are very specific. Actually, your studies show they do even out in particular things like testosterone count, how much testosterone you have in NGF per milliliters. I mean, that stuff evens out, but stuff like height objectively does not even out. Same with lung capacity.
Yeah, height does not. It's not going to even out because you're always going to stay tall until you get old. Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, of course. So same with lung capacity. Lung size does not change. So these
lung capacity does change. I think I remember. I recall that. I actually do recall that.
No,
that does change.
It stays the same. Heart size changes very, very minimally. Usually a male is about 15 to 30% bigger, but after transition, it's about 15% bigger. Lung capacity does not change. I believe it stays around 40 to 60% larger. I went on the low end for you, so 40% larger. These things do not change. So would you say having a 40% larger lung capacity on average is fair?
Depends. Of course, like on in something in sport like basketball, yeah, it's gonna be fair. Hold on. Of course, in a sport like basketball, then yeah, the advantage is gonna be there. Then yeah, it's not gonna be fair. But at the end of the day, like we said before, you said that some of these people are just gonna suck at the sport.
I know, but those are very specific examples. I mean, we're talking highest level sports. I mean, eventually, if men are allowed in women's sports, we take this to the extreme. Maybe 100 years from now, there's not going to be just 12 athletes. There's going to be 1,200. And in that case, they'll completely, I mean, one of them eventually isn't going to suck and is going to dominate that sport due to these advantages. Like
there are already trans women in these sports who do not suck, and there are trans women in the sports who do suck. Right? This is already the case. Well, like what we're going through is a slippery slope argument to say that if you allow transgender women into women's sports, all of a sudden they're all going to dominate the sport. But we know that isn't true because they're not even doing it now. Why would they do it later? They all can't suck now. That's kind of what I'm saying is that they all can't suck now. That's kind of crazy. We can't say every single one of them suck. Hold on. What I'm saying is that we can't say every single one of them suck now because you can't say they were all lower ranked males because a lot of them didn't join the sport as a male. They joined the sport after they transition. So how can we say they all suck now? That's kind of it's kind of ridiculous.
I mean, you're just kind of assuming recorded. There's only 12 of them.
You said there's only 12 transgender women in the entire world. That makes no sense, bro.
NCAA sports, high level organizations.
And NCAA sports, there's only 12 transgender women.
I believe so, yes.
And in the Olympics?
I do not believe there are any in the Olympics currently.
There were trans women in the Olympics. Well, I'm talking about in like when it comes to like sports all around the planet, there are only 12 transgender women in every single sport across the planet.
No, I'm talking NCAA.
So you're talking about a very specific organization.
Yes, the general.
All right, so we just can't go after that, bro. The NCAA is not the gold standard.
I think it is, especially here in America.
The Olympics is the gold standard because who's better, Duke University or the Lakers?
Of course, the Lakers.
Right. So the NCAA is not the gold standard. I've been on for 2 hours, bro. I gotta go ahead and go ahead. I do gotta get out of here though. I gotta go ahead because.
All right. Let me just close with a question.
Sure.
Do trans women have objective advantages over women?
In what?
Sports.
I don't know.
You don't know, no. Despite the fact that lung size remains 40% larger, height remains, of course, the same. You know,
right? Because it depends on which sport we're talking about. As I said before. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, bro, because I've already said depends on what sport you're talking about. All right, y'all. Phone line is closed. Sorry, can't take the last person. I gotta get out of here, y'all. But y'all, I appreciate everybody being here. Y'all wonderful. I wasn't able to get to all of the comments. There's a lot of comments here, and I wasn't able to get to all of them. So big shout out to the Deconstruction Junction. I appreciate y'all with the Deconstruction Junction. Big one on those numbers. Appreciate y'all over on Valsy Thoughts as well. Appreciate those numbers. And appreciate y'all over on the Black Atheist Coalition. I appreciate those numbers as well. Shout out to Resist for the super chat. Send me the super chat for Papa Legba candle. that is hilarious. Just for the Papa Legba candle. I appreciate the super chat. But I am gonna go ahead and get out of here, y'all. I do appreciate y'all. I do love y'all. Remember, y'all, every man should be soft. That's secure, affectionate, wise, flexible, and thoughtful. Every man should be soft. I appreciate